This is Kimberly Reuter, business advisor and supply chain expert, and welcome back to my podcast, The Morning Mood. And today we are here with Marc Zazeela, and we are going to be talking about what's going on with de minimis, how this is going to affect postal shipments, what is going on. For those of you who have not been following, in about the time this podcast comes out, will be about a day ahead. So, in a day or so, de minimis is going to go away, which means up until then, $800 shipments didn't have to be cleared by customs, and they kind of flew under the radar. Over the years, this has started to be abused. There's a lot of companies and countries that have taken advantage of this. And the United States is one of the last countries to finally get rid of de minimis. Most other countries have reduced it to very little. And so it's due time. It's something we've been talking about for a long time, but it's definitely going to impact us in the United States and consumers and what happens. So Marc is here to give us this perspective from a postal carrier expert.
Well,
Welcome.
just in big picture, Kim, there are
Yeah.
really two ways to look at it. The companies that have been drop shipping into the US, direct from China, Indonesia, India, wherever the products are made, taking orders on Amazon, if you will, or
Yep.
some other, their own web store or a Shopify store, something like that, and placing the orders with the manufacturers in country and
Yep.
having it drop shipped directly to the consumer in the US.
Yep.
Temu and Shein are the two names that come to mind.
The
Maybe a
biggest
little
players.
Alibaba too, but
Yeah.
they're the ones who really, I think, were responsible for some of the sea changes that we're seeing now, just because of the
Yeah.
sheer volume of stuff coming in. And like you said, any individual shipment going direct to consumer that was with a declared value below $800 would come in free and clear. No
Yeah.
clearance fees, no duty, no tax, nothing.
Yeah.
Um, so now
And the
that's
original
about to change.
Yeah, and the original intent of that law, it was 600 and then they upped to 800, didn't they? They changed
It
it.
was 800 for like the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, yeah. So the original intent of the law was that if you went abroad and you bought something or, you wanted to order something for your personal use, that was the intent of the law so that you could bring something back in from a trip abroad was kind of the intent of it or have something sent to you as a gift. It was not that law was not built, passed, or reasoned with when e-commerce was around. And so once e-commerce came about, and as we flatten the world with things like Amazon Global and allowed for more international shipping and kind of normalize that, that's when we started to see the Shens and the Temus and the Alibabas and the Amazon haul. Amazon's right in there with the rest of them. They got their haul website,
Mhm.
started really kind of abusing the law. And the other little thing that's super interesting about this is it's within a 24-hour period and no one enforces that. So it's supposed to be $800 within a 24-hour period. And we definitely know that doesn't happen. So it's been very interesting to see how this has evolved. And it came to a crescendo about 2 years ago, I would say, when we realized that all of this commerce was happening without there being any sort of reimbursement to the United States.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's happened in a number of ways too. I mean, the retail part of it is just one way of doing it. We've also had the U.S. Customs Section 321 clearance for consolidated shipments, which served a similar purpose for companies buying abroad, having everything predestined to the consumer, put in a container or on a pallet or something, and then shipped through customs in bulk, but
Yeah.
clearing using the 321 clearance, which assumes that everything is destined for an individual in the US. That
Yes.
also exempted those shipments from any duty and tax. Uh,
Yeah. Which was sort of a shortcut because technically the commerce happened through the website and there was always just a little bit murky about how that happened, right? Because it was just kind of like, a lot of times you didn't know you were gonna be the importer of record on something, right? You thought you were buying it, you didn't know exactly where it was coming from. I
Right.
actually had that happen to me recently. It was a very disappointing experience for myself because I understood what was happening, but I bought something off of a marketplace. It told me when it was gonna get here. I had no idea that it was shipping directly from China. Of course, it got damaged on the way, which is, to be expected. It did come within the timeline that they told me, like it arrived on time, quote unquote. But I was a little shocked to figure out that it was coming directly from China. And I think that is a testament to how smooth and flawless that supply chain has become, that you can really do commerce on a domestic website and have it shipped from you from another country. And it was pretty seamless.
Yeah, I mean, there are Chinese companies that have a footprint in North America now to deliver the products, like you suggest, that are coming in from China in a consolidated fashion under
Yep.
the 321 clearance rule and then distributed to consumers throughout North America.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. I think that I don't know if companies abused the law per se, but they certainly took advantage of
They took advantage of
it.
it.
And,
And
and, and
so
like you said, in ways that it was never intended.
yes, and that was the issue. It was the intent of the law, and it's for those of you who may be new to supply chain or not in supply chain who listen to the podcast because we have a lot of non-supply chain listeners. Because we talk about leadership in life as well. But for some of those who don't really understand why this is so important, let Mark and I kind of explain to you how this would work in both ways. So if we took a marketplace, let's pick on Target Marketplace for a minute because we're always picking on Amazon Marketplace. So we're gonna pick on Target Marketplace. So if you went on Target and you made a purchase, right? Let's say you bought a blanket, and typically what would happen before companies started to sort of optimize this 321, uh, Target would have had to imported a container full of blankets. They would have cleared customs. They would have paid the duties and taxes. All of that would have been into the landed cost of the product, so they can make sure that they make a profit. And it would be sold to a customer. They go on the website, they buy it, they ship it to them from a U.S. website. That's how our U.S. Warehouse. That's how it typically works. When we introduced the 321 and the company's starting to optimize, we'll call it for the 321, what was happening is you would go to the Target website, you'd order a blanket, and they would ship it to you from another country, wherever typically it's country of manufacture. And when they did that, because now it became an individual shipment and it fell under this $800, there was no duties and taxes paid to anyone. So the retailer actually makes a little bit more money because they're not paying the duties and taxes. They didn't adjust their landed cost or their cost to the customer. They're making a little bit more profit. The manufacturer is shipping it to you directly. It's maybe taking a little bit longer for you to get to you, but in general, your experience as a customer is almost the same. It doesn't really change for you. But what happens on the more federal government financial level is that millions and millions and millions of dollars in duty have been cut out of that pipeline through this program.
Right. By not having to import a container, like you
Yep.
said, which
Yep.
easily exceeds the $800 de minimis and is subject to assessment,
Yep.
you're totally off the hook for that.
Yeah.
Plus, the dropship model made sense because now you don't have a capital expense buying and storing all this inventory either.
Right. That
Shipping
yeah.
in from
No,
manufacturer piecemeal versus finding a place to store a container full of stuff until you ship it.
yeah.
There's a big difference there. Your shipping
There's a
cost
huge
per
difference
item
there.
may be a little more, but
Yep.
the overall cost is still a lot less.
The overall cost is a lot less. And let's talk about that for a minute because there are legit reasons for doing this. We don't want to make it sound like everybody was just doing this to skirt the law. There were legit reasons and there are legit business models for doing this. Some of these are, around custom making things, being able to manufacture on demand, which is a lot of what Temu and Shein are doing, right? They're doing fast fashion, which blah, we don't like that. It's bad for the environment. We need to get away from that. But it enabled you to produce when you needed it and not do the bulk model like what we talked about, which is import a 40 footer with the blankets. Because in that situation, those blankets might not sell, right? Might be the wrong color, they might be too heavy, the quality might not be right, whatever. The football team you put on there lost the Super Bowl, whatever happened, you may not actually sell that 40 footer. So to your point, there's inventory liability, there's cost for storing it, et cetera, et cetera. When you do this drop ship directly from from manufacturer country, you eliminate all of that. So you eliminate a lot of the risk and you eliminate the storage and redistribution costs, which is a benefit. However, you also don't pay duties and taxes for a few more weeks. Like that's going to change though. Okay. So we only have what, about 9 days left before that
Something like
changes.
that, yeah.
So what is going to change? So tell us, Mark, what is going to change in 9 days?
Well, the de minimis on anything coming into the US is going to be zero. So the first dollar is going to be assessed a duty or a tariff, which are essentially the same things, based on what the item is, where it's coming from, and what the value is.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be assessed.
Everything.
So businesses are going to look at that. They're going to say, okay, does it make sense to continue the drop ship model? Timu and Sheen have both said no. They have and are opening warehouses here.
Yes.
What's the benefit in that now? Because it's contrary to what we just talked about. But the reality is now, if you're going to pay some sort of an import fee, well, it makes a lot more sense to pay the import on the wholesale value of the goods versus the
Yes.
retail
Versus the
price.
retail value of the
Yeah.
goods.
And I think a
Yes.
lot of people have missed that in the conversation around the tariffs and things like that. That,
Yep.
you know, people say, well, I think the tariff from China now is 30% or
It's
25 or
holding
30.
at 30 for the moment.
I think it's 30.
Yep.
30% of a $50 retail is $15. If the wholesale on that $50 item was $15, well, 30% is only 5.
Yeah.
So then that kind of offsets
It
the
offsets it.
thinking of warehousing here versus abroad, laying out cash for the inventory. So it certainly gives the brand a lot more to think about when
It
they're
does.
deciding whether they want to continue drop shipping, which they can,
Yeah.
or whether they want to buy in bulk and bring it in and sell from here. And I think,
Yeah.
there are probably two ways to look at that. You've, as a retailer, you've got best selling items that are going to sell.
Yep.
They do every time. You've got history. So
They're your
there's no
staple
reason not
items. Yep.
to stock those on the ground here.
Yeah.
For new items you're not so sure about, you know, it's kind of marginal items in your product lineup. It may make more sense to continue to drop ship. Right. So when you're looking at from a retailer's perspective, and if you want to
Mhm.
use Target as an example again, they have
You're welcome,
best
Target.
selling items. They know they're going to sell through.
Yeah.
They have history on it. No reason not to bring in a container and store it and, pay for the pick and pack locally and then ship locally as well. If you've got items that might be new and untested, or the
Yep.
sales are kind of marginal, you're not sure, but you don't want to get stuck sitting on a whole bunch of stuff that you have to mark down.
Yep.
In that case, it may still make sense to drop ship, even considering the increased tariff on the retail price. So
Yep.
retailers are going to have to juggle things a little more. The answers are not quite as black and white as they are today compared to what they will be in 10 days.
Yeah. And we will adjust. Like, I will say that the European Union did this, what, about 10, 15 years ago? Canada made an adjustment about in that same timeline. And all those countries adjusted to having a lower de minimis. It's just we're going to have to change how we do business and how we think about things. You do bring up a really good point about it. It now starts to shift towards traditional importing makes more sense now. And I think we will see the Timus and the Xiens move back towards importing in containers. I think we're also seeing a lot of companies because of the tension in the tariff situation. We're seeing a lot of modified DDP entries, a lot of DDP Incoterms these days. Careful with that. There's a lot of it going on, but be careful. And then the other thing is, we have first sale. So as we talk about when you move in, you're, moving away from the start to consumer, this is going to really kill my business. If you open up an instance in the United States and you start importing for yourself, there's opportunities for you to adjust your imported value based on first sale rules and things like that can help you more than than relying on de minimis.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, Kim, also businesses will adjust. I mean, there's a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
uncertainty, a lot of confusion about what the laws are, and that that creates some anxiety, understandably, especially among
Mhm.
people that aren't that familiar with all the ins and outs of importing.
Yeah.
But if you, like you suggested, the European Union is a good example. So is Canada. Um,
Yep.
there was a lot of pushback when they lowered de minimis and created some of these new rules as well. I mean,
The
the
VAT
UK with
rules,
UK VAT
yeah.
and the IOS in EU as well. There was a lot of
Yep.
pushback on that stuff. The dust is settled. Commerce has pretty much returned to
Everything's
normal.
survived.
Um, you
Yeah.
know, things be a little more expensive? Yeah, they probably will.
Yep.
And some companies may be hurt by the impact of a price increase. Others will not. It kind of depends on what you're selling, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think over time, things will kind of even out and it'll work. It'll just be different. Uh,
Yeah, it'll work. And again, I just want to reiterate, this has been a long time coming. I know we've been talking about getting rid of de minimis in the United States this is not a recent administration thing. I know that this came up when ACE was coming around, when we started to be able to get a handle on actually all the data. That's one of the big things that's held us back from doing this is just the sheer number of entries that are packages that are now going to require entry. I don't if you recall when we went through this a few months ago, I believe the number was 1,000,000 packages in Hong Kong in a day is what got backed up.
mhm.
So the scale again, we go back to the scale of this is we're looking at millions of packages, millions and millions of packages on a daily basis that got no customs treatment whatsoever. And in 9 days, they're going to be subject to everything.
Yeah. I think there's another side to that as well. I mean, in addition to the de minimis issue, having the additional scrutiny, if you will also stop a lot of prohibited items from coming in. I mean,
Yes.
USPS is aware of that this has been happening, but they don't have a way to stop it. Well, now they do.
Now they do.
Now they're going to have the tools to stop illegal imports.
Illegal imports,
Animal
and there is a
products.
lot of it that goes through that channel, I'm not gonna lie about it. Of
No.
all the things that have happened with the international supply chain since January, it's whew, it's only been 8 months. Oh my god, I feel like it's been 8 lifetimes. But if all the changes that we made, I think de minimis makes the most sense to me when we align it towards the goals that we're trying to accomplish, right, from the current administration.
Mhm.
Reduce illegal imports. The postal imports were the number one avenue for that stuff into the United States because it was so unregulated. So yes, it attacks that issue, these illegal imports. It also attacks this revenue generation issue and the abuse of the duties and taxes. I think that was a lot of it. So of all the things that we've done so far, done, undone, done again, did it again, undid it, did it, paused it, whatever we've been doing, this is the one that kind of makes the most sense to me. What do you think?
I agree. And like you said, I think, I'm not sure, but I think we're one of the last countries to adopt
Yeah.
a lower de minimis. Um,
Australia still got a big one, but yeah, we're one of the
oh yeah,
last.
they're still at 1,000
Yeah,
Australia.
yeah,
And there's been some rumblings there too. I kind of think that's going to change as well.
yeah.
There's a lot
But
of
they are
money
on an
involved.
island, so they need to be careful. So
Well, right.
it's
They're leaving a lot of money on the table
they are.
and nobody else is doing it. So,
They're
you know,
probably next.
it does make sense just for the simple fact that it costs money to process this stuff coming in. If there's no de minimis, you're not collecting anything for doing for the inspections and the
Yeah,
storage and all that stuff. Who's paying for that? Well,
yeah,
right now, nobody.
yeah.
So
That's true.
it makes sense for a lot of reasons. What the numbers should be, that's
Mhm.
anybody's guess, and that's for people who are a lot smarter than me to figure out. But
Yeah.
there should be something. I mean, still, okay. The one thing that still exists is there still is no tax. We don't have a national sales tax.
Shh,
Most other
shh,
countries do. So it's going to come in.
would you mention that? Don't bring that up. Don't
It'll,
put that in the universe. No.
we don't want anybody to know about that.
Yeah, don't
Um,
tell anybody. Good lord. I hope the White House isn't listening.
right,
Shit.
right. Because
Yeah.
most countries have a
Yeah,
VAT
but you're right.
or
They
a
have a VAT. They
GST.
have a national VAT. Yeah, we don't have that.
So it's still a
Yeah.
pretty good deal, all things considered.
I would say it is. You bring up should there be a value? I think in the EU it's 40 euros, but you still have to pay VAT.
Well,
But you
the
don't have to
VAT
pay
now
any
in EU is 0.
0, right. You still have to pay
0.
VAT, but if it's under 40 euros, you don't have to pay duty, I think is what it is. Like there's they have a duty threshold.
Right, and same yeah,
And I
a lot
do
of countries have
Yeah,
that.
small. Canada has one too. They're much lower than 800. I do kind of wish we had a small one for selfish purposes because I do like to buy my eyeglasses from overseas. So that would make some sense, but I can understand why we're putting it to 0 because again, if we put any value at all, it will be gamed, right? So if we put it at 40, then everything will cost less than $40. That's just the way it works.
Well, that's part of the inspection process too, and we see
Yeah.
that a lot now with the
Mhm.
outbound shipments that we send.
Oh yeah.
We have clients that obviously under declare the value, and
Mhm.
we're not the police, so we're not gonna tell them, "Well, you can't do it." We
Yeah.
advise, if you ask me, I'll tell you you shouldn't do it, and if
Yeah.
you get caught, you could be fined and blacklisted. So,
Yep.
but the merchant takes the risk and not the
Yeah.
carrier.
You
Um,
decide.
but it happens a lot,
Yeah.
and it does cause problems. When stuff
Mhm.
gets stopped, customs will sometimes arbitrarily assign a value that may be more than what
Well,
it really is worth,
yep.
and it turns into a really bad situation.
It can turn
Uh,
into a really bad situation. A lot of countries are doing that now. They're applying their own duty rate or their own value to products when it comes in. I ran into a couple of those situations in Canada as well. And for a lot of situations, it's necessary because the value was under declared or no declaration at all. Like there's just no value at all, and so customs assigns one to it. But to your point, if you abuse the system, you could end up worse off than if you had played along and
sure.
and done the right thing.
Oh, the fines are it could be in the thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
They're
I
pretty
mean,
hefty
the
fines.
the fines are huge. I would also say the other thing that I've noticed too is I feel like customs is taking a more aggressive approach, than they have in the past. I know we've gone through cycles with customs, right? There was, with ACE, there was more of the modernization and there was kind of a coming together in a community and everybody working together. And I think that's kind of been the vibe for the last 20 years or so. But I feel like now customs is taking more of an authoritative position than they have in the past.
Mhm.
And I don't know how long that will last, but it definitely changes how commerce happens.
Well, sure. I mean, they've got a lot more resources at their disposal. The
Yes.
internet has made research way easier.
Way
So
easier.
if somebody ships a pair of shoes that are obviously $100, $150 just by looking at them, and the
Yeah.
declared value is 20,
Yeah.
they're definitely going to look that
They're
up, and they'll
Google
go
it.
to the seller's website and find out
Yeah,
what it was sold for,
they will.
and they'll reassess it. And if you don't pay it, it'll get discarded. You'll just lose
Yeah,
both.
and they will do that. It's super funny to me now that, when I work with clients and they're working on classification or binding rulings and things like this, like, we give website addresses, just like, "Oh, if you want more information about this, here, you can just go to the Amazon page,"
Right.
and everything you wanna know and a picture of it, and customs uses it, like, they actually prefer it because that's
Sure.
where they can get a lot of the great information about it. That's also where they catch a lot of bad actors, so be careful.
Mhm.
Very good. All right. Anything else, Mark, you want to talk about before we sign off today on de minimis and what's going to change in 9 days? And
Yeah,
career?
I think, Kim, it's gonna change whether you like it or not. It's happening.
Yep.
You need to accept that reality. And if you have questions about how to navigate some of these things, what some of the best practices are, reach out to people in the industry who have
Yeah.
the knowledge that can advise you and make suggestions. People like you,
Yes.
for example, uh,
Yeah.
that can provide guidance that will be very, very valuable going forward.
Yeah. So, really good point. If you're out there and you're up against this, please reach out to myself or Mark or someone like us. Don't wait to the last minute because this is happening. It's going to happen. And let me just tell you what's going to happen if you don't address this. And maybe we'll take a few minutes just to talk. We're going a little bit over, Mark, but I don't want people to ignore this because that's what they'll do. If you ignore this, your packages are going to get stuck in customs and your customers are not going to get their orders. period. That we're not joking. It isn't gonna be a little delay, or you're gonna get a nice little note in the mail or a phone call or a grace period. They're not gonna get past customs
Yeah, I mean, they've made it clear that there's no notification, no communication. Packages will be rejected and destroyed.
and destroyed. And
That's how it's gonna
destroyed.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. So please, out there, if you're an importer, you're a shipper, you rely on this, you've been using this as your business model, get some help because it is going to impact your customers.
It's
And this, in addition to duties and taxes, in addition to the bullshit that's going on with the ocean carriers, in addition to these new fees that we may be putting on ships, like it's going to get expensive quick and it's getting really scary for small businesses. So get on top of this.
great advice, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mark, for being here. Thank you, my Moodies. I hope you learned something today and be ready for change.
Thanks, Kate.